Welcome back, everyone. My name is Patrick. You're watching the Oilers Rundown. Well, it was an eventful Tuesday in Edmonton yesterday. Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway both signing offer sheets with the St. Louis Blues. We thought both players were going to sign this week. We just thought it was going to be with the Edmonton Oilers. Two much cheaper contracts, but now combined, those two guys are looking for over $6 million against the cap. The Oilers have 1 week to decide whether they're going to match on both players. We debated in yesterday's video what course the Oilers should take. I think ultimately they're going to try and sign both guys, but it's going to be extremely difficult to do so. Evander Kane going on LTIR, we're going to talk about that more in a few moments, would obviously be a key factor in getting that done. I think a Cody Ceci trade, more trades, possibly. I don't know. It's going to be very difficult for the Oilers to make this happen. And we obviously have to factor in as well the long-term effect of matching both players. The Oilers were counting on having a lot more money available. Some of Draisaitl's money would now be going towards Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, some of McDavid's money. So whether Evander Kane has to go eventually, do the Oilers have to go even bigger than that? I know Tyson over at Dalney TV is talking about a possible Darnell Nurse trade today, so we'll see what happens here, guys. But a lot of factors have to go into the Oilers' decisions here over the next week. We learned more information from Bob Stauffer on Oilers Now last night. Elliotte Friedman had a special edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast that he released this morning. So I have a bunch of new information to share with you guys. Let's start with the information from Bob Stauffer that he released on Oilers Now. Bob started the show really going after former Oilers general manager Ken Holland. He said Ken Holland was told to get Holloway and Broberg done back in January when they were in Bakersfield. I think there's plenty of blame to go around on this one. Jeff Jackson was with the team the whole time. He could have got these contracts done sooner as well. Bob also mentioned the Blues were interested in Holloway and Broberg dating back to the trade deadline last year in a possible deal for Pavel Buchnevich. We talked about Buchnevich a lot on the channel. Bob also mentions that he thinks both Brett Kulak and Cody Ceci would likely have to go if the Oilers plan on matching on both Broberg and Holloway. Swinging two trades might be a lot to ask here. We've talked about Cody Ceci the most as the guy likely to go. I'd prefer to keep Brett Kulak out of the two. Whether the Oilers actually go down this route and trade two players, I kind of doubt that, but we'll see what happens. And my consensus from last night's Oilers Now that out of the two, I think Bob Stauffer is leaning more towards keeping Dylan Holloway. This can go back and forth depending on your beliefs. I mean, probably Dylan Holloway would actually be easier to replace with the talent the Oilers have up front, but they did lose Ryan McLeod earlier in the summer, so they lost speed there, and that was a big factor that Bob talked about in Oilers Now last night, that the Oilers were losing some speed up front. So if you keep Dylan Holloway, you maintain more of that speed up front, but defense is a very key position for the Edmonton Oilers here, and to lose Philip Broberg there would be a massive blow. So I don't know. It can be debated back and forth. Like I said, overall, I think the Oilers are going to try and find a way to keep both players, but probably more likely in the end, they're going to have to decide between one of the two on who they're keeping. Switching over to Elliotte Friedman now, his report from the 32 Thoughts podcast. Let's start with Leon Draisaitl. He expects Leon Draisaitl to be done in the next little while. We believe it's going to be an 8-year deal in the $13 million range. So I imagine any Draisaitl talks have been pushed a little bit until this whole Broberg and Holloway situation is dealt with, but I still think we're going to get Leon Draisaitl done here within the next couple weeks, and Elliotte Friedman clearly shares that belief. It's believed that Philip Broberg was seeking $1.8 million from the Oilers. We were hearing more that the Oilers were trying to go closer to 1.3, 1.2. Dylan Holloway was believed to be in the $1.2 million area, so they were pretty close on demands here, so a little frustrating that the Oilers could not get these deals done sooner. Elliotte adds that the Blues felt that they had to get both Broberg and Holloway in this deal to really force the Oilers' hand. If they only signed one of Broberg or Holloway, it really wasn't worth going through because the Oilers probably would have just matched outright. But having both Broberg and Holloway signed, it really does put the Oilers over the barrel, and odds are the Blues are probably going to get one of the two guys that they wanted. And obviously, St. Louis felt they definitely had to keep a lid on this. They worried that the Oilers would trade for a player that was arbitration eligible. thereby opening up another buyout window for them. So they would have had another mechanism to get around this deal. The Oilers obviously can't do that now. The arbitration window has passed, so the timing on this is obviously no coincidence. The Blues planned this out pretty methodically. And I mentioned earlier that Bob Stauffer was giving Ken Holland a lot of grief for not getting these contracts done sooner. Well, apparently Philip Broberg refused to do any contract negotiations during the year. He wanted to play the year out, see how it went. So the Oilers couldn't have got Philip Broberg done before the end of the season. Maybe they go a different route. Maybe they trade him. But obviously the Oilers wanting to keep Philip Broberg, but it did factor into the situation that they're in now. So like I said, it's a tricky situation. I don't know if Dylan Holloway was more willing to negotiate during the year, but Philip Broberg, according to Elliot Friedman's report, was not. Elliot Friedman also confirming that he's heard Evander Kane will have surgery and will be out for months, but he has no set timeline for return. He's not sure that recovery would last until the playoffs. I know that's everybody's hope. Just put Evander Kane on LTIR until the playoffs and just activate him then, but if Kane is ready before then, it just complicates everything, and that is certainly a distinct possibility. TSN's Ryan Rishaug also reported yesterday that he's hearing surgery, and the 2 Months podcast have also retracted their story and have said surgery is happening. So it's a consensus belief now that Evander Kane will have surgery. We talked about a bit of a disconnect over the last couple of videos. It doesn't sound like that disconnect, at least in regards to the surgery, is there. Evander Kane and the Oilers both want the surgery to happen. And Elliot Friedman also noting there has been some revenge talk, the Oilers possibly going after Blues prospect Jake Neighbours next summer. The Oilers have to sign McDavid, they have to sign Draisaitl, they have to sign Bouchard. Realistically, there is just not going to be any money for the Oilers to offer sheet Jake Neighbours. They could possibly get revenge on the St. Louis Blues at some point down the road, but it will definitely not be immediate revenge for the Oilers. Elliot also mentions there was some concern about how these contracts would be received in the room. Obviously, Connor, Dry, and Bouchard all talking about taking less money to help push the team forward towards that Stanley Cup. And now we have Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway here looking for more money. You have to take care of number one at the end of the day, Philip Broberg. It's an amazing contract for him. Dylan Holloway, a big boost for him as well. But if they take less, they are definitely in a better position to win the Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers here over the next couple years, and then you could have got that big contract, but who knows? One of these guys could get a big injury the next couple years, and that chance to make all that money has evaporated. So I can see it from both sides. You have to take care of number one, but at the same time, you'd love them to take a team-friendly deal. One final note from Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Dan McKinnon, the New Jersey Devils assistant general manager, was apparently a finalist for the Oilers GM job. We didn't hear about many candidates during that process, so kind of an interesting name. It's certainly the first time I've heard Dan McKinnon's name mentioned, so an interesting new candidate in the GM world there. That's basically the latest, guys. We may hear more throughout the day. We really haven't gotten an official response from the Edmonton Oilers yet on the offer sheets. But yeah, let's see what happens here, guys. What are you thinking? Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, match both, let one of them go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If this is your first visit to the channel and you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing for all the latest Oilers content. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan.